Hello and welcome again to the Writer Review. This is Eric Writer, and this week we're going to be taking a look back at the 2000 biopic drama titled Erin Brockovich. Now, Erin Brockovich runs for 2 hours and 10 minutes long. It is directed by Steven Soderbergh. It is produced by Danny DeVito, Michael Shamberg, and Stacy Scher. The script was written by Susanna Grant. The score was done by Thomas Newman. The cinematography by Ed Lachman. And the editing was done by Ann L. Coates. And the stars of the movie were Julia Roberts, who actually went on to win an Oscar for her performance. Let's see, rounding out the cast, we have Albert Finney. And they're playing, of course, the real life characters, including the titular character being Erin Brockovich, and also Albert Finney playing the real attorney who she works for, Mr. Edward L. Masry. The other stars in the movie include Aaron Eckhart, Marg Helgenberger. We also have Tracy Walter, Peter Coyote, Conhata Ferrell, Veanne Cox, and even some cameo appearances by the real Erin Brockovich, who has a cameo appearance, as well as also Edward L. Masry. So, Erin Brockovich, what can I say about this movie? Erin Brockovich is truly the film that made Julia Roberts a star, being that she transitioned herself from a star in romantic comedies, and now she makes the transition to starring in a movie that has won over a new fan base for her, and it also gave her an Academy Award win in 2001. Starring in the titular biopic of a clerk confronting corrupt businesses and exposing their fraudulent ways without a care for her reputation in the process. The sides of Brockovich are handled with 3 integral parts. Her crass ways are really never vulgar, but just high-spirited. Yeah, okay, so sometimes she may appear uncouth. She may not have the professional mannerisms like all the other lawyers and paralegals in the firm she works with. She's not a lawyer. She's not even a paralegal. She's a clerk. And she was basically, her main job was just to do organizing files, which that kind of line of profession is boring as hell. But hey, I guess it's better than her just sitting on her laurels. I mean, prior to her job as a clerk, she was really not doing very much in her life, or was doing jobs that wasn't going to get her far. Now I know being a law clerk isn't going to ring in the dough, but I guess it does pay some salary for her efforts. She does come to work not dressed like, a formal conservative office attire. She seems to somewhat come in pretty skimpy. And let's face it, she could be almost a bit of the life of the law firm that she works for, due to her somewhat charismatic ways that could be either charming in some areas, and in some areas just downright crass. And when she is opinionated, she will tell you. She may dress with questionable taste, but underneath all that crassness and underneath her somewhat high-spirited ways, she does have a heart of gold. And if she berates and verbally mocks other people, it's not that she's inconsiderate or mean, but because a lot of the corporations she is taking on hires some of the most underhanded and corrupt people on this planet. And for a bonus, she may act like she's naive, but we realize that she even hoodwinks the viewers, revealing that she's anything but. She may somewhat make you question her integrities if she's actually up to par with what she's actually doing and what she's representing. But then we realize we know very well and that she knows what she's doing. We know what she's doing. And let's just say she has us fooled. She has us fooled into thinking that she's naive, she's inexperienced. But even through some of the most inexperienced people, she knows how to pick things up rather quickly and rather efficiently. Somewhat she may somewhat even outsmart some of these long-time dedicated lawyers who work in this profession that she currently works at. Erin Brockovich epitomizes every character that Julia Roberts has starred in since she made her debut in the mid-'80s. The character of Brockovich herself is a typical figure that the film industry idolizes. Roberts was rightfully cast, and she can talk tough and smart and still be attractive at the same time. And even though, yes, she does come to work not dressed in the traditional, formal, professional office attire, and she doesn't really give a flying fuck what you think, she still manages to know how to get the job done. And if she has to walk over these corporate shrills, these corrupt bastards and bitches, well then, she will mow you down. And she won't stop. She'll just even mow you down again, and again, and again. The movie centers around the young law clerk who is a divorced single mother of 3 children whose journey itself deserves to be written on paper. Though her job is not all that exciting or heavily paid, but was shunned when she found out that a major corporation like Pacific Gas and Electric were offering to underhandedly pay medical bills in a California town where their offices run. This leads her to go undercover to further investigate with all the essential documents needed for a class action lawsuit and exploiting this corporation that are responsible for contaminating the water with some hexavalent chromium. I don't know the scientific terminology, but I think it's something like a hexavalent chromium contaminated water thing, whatever the fuck it's called. Anyways, it's anyways, this solution has contaminated the water, which has contributed to many civilians who have contacted several health problems. In her grinding research, she went around the town area, the houses, and just by many of the residents within that area, if these people, if these civilians are not enough to shed a tear in your eye, then you must have a heart of stone, because the heartbreak that these families are going through in this California town due to the corruption and the evil that is manifesting at Pacific Gas and Electric. What's going on in these residential areas will surely shed a tear to your eye. In her grinding research, she has met a hairless little girl who had to have chemotherapy, a lady battling breast cancer, and her husband who's dying of lymphoma. In one of the more pivotal cases, she tells a woman named Donna Jensen, played by a pre-famed CSI Marg Helgenberger, that what's ailing her is not a stream of bad luck, but bad water, which eventually led to getting her kids out of the water she's swimming in. I mean, these civilians are practically swimming in contaminated water that's filled with these high scientific contaminated shit, and it's affecting the town. It's causing people to suffer severe health problems. And these assholes over at Pacific Gas and Electric are just trying to conceal their guilt by offering medical bills out of their own pockets. Yeah, that's right. These fuckers who think that they're doing the world of good just by giving them free Medicare is really actually the blame as to why these people are suffering. And so now it's up to Erin Brockovich to take these assholes down, and needs just the right amount of documents for a class action suit so that these fuckers don't corrupt this town again. And to also try to fix the solution with the water crisis in that area. Under the direction of Steven Soderbergh and based on actual events, this movie stands out as a true underdog story of how a small-time law clerk goes through great lengths to take down a big corporation that has investments ranging in $28 million. Now this law firm that she works for is not the most financially stable. And they feel that they just don't have the funding or the sponsorship for this class action suit. They're trying to tell her that, you know, this might be a viable lawsuit, but because they are protected with a huge money investment of over $28 million, what if they lose this case? I mean, if they lose this case, then they're going to go broke, and she's going to be laid off. Everybody else is going to be laid off. This case could be either a make it or break it situation. It's either win hard or die trying. And if they were to choose between the two, I would pick win hard. Albert Finney plays lawyer Ed Masry, who will have to go through great lengths to exploit this company for who they really are. Nobody ever said this case was going to be easy. Granted that Roberts usually handles performances on her own merits, but here it's Soderbergh that calls the shots. Plus, he has to in order for this film to work. And being this is not a fictionalized character that's being portrayed here. This is based on actual events. Erin Brockovich, Edward L. Masry are real people. And we can't really overly dramatize the situations or to go off on freely done artistic licenses, because this movie is about as real as it comes. There might be some dramatic licensing. I can understand that. After all, it's a film. It's not a documentary. But still, in most of the time, this movie definitely needs to stay as real as possible. And we can't necessarily have Julia Roberts go off. We can't necessarily even have Albert Finney go off too much. They have to also abide by making the characters. They have to recreate the characters like the real characters that they are portraying in this movie. If Roberts took control of the character, the movie would end up falling to a victim of satire. Now, Soderbergh was not going to let this movie be dependent on satire. And though she carries the heavy cargo throughout the movie, her emotions have to be spot on, and the camera's attention should be based off of her. The other cast members definitely have to remain frozen until Roberts has the final camera shot of her. And maybe it might be part ego, but I really kind of highly doubt that. The ego factor for Julia Roberts has to be minimal, at best. Whether she's happy, angry, or in crocodile tears, we, the audience, are cued on how to react. Roberts has a reputation of being, quite self-indulgent. And though Soderbergh gives her that freedom to some extent, to the point where it really becomes Julia's world and everyone else is just secondary. But Soderbergh is not really going to let that happen too much. Julia Roberts has that kind of reputation, where as long as the camera is mostly on her, that's all that matters. But she doesn't call the shots here, because she's not making up a fake character here. This is not a work of fiction. This is based on true events. These things really did happen. So, creative control by the actors, not likely. Not just picking on Julia Roberts, but the reason I'm going with Julia Roberts is because she's the star. I mean, I'm sure Albert Finney also had to do that too. Soderbergh does assure that the supporting characters are definitely not underused here. Finney's character as Ed Masry is strong here, though his reactions are mostly just to stay disgruntled by his headstrong clerk. But underneath that hidden exterior is a man with a heart of gold who's contemplating retirement, but her presence does give him some strength. actually, yes. Veanne Cox is outstanding in some low-key comic relief as an uppity lawyer whose big fault was to usurp the well-determined Brockovich. If there was any weak scenes, it was definitely when Erin's personal life is added to the story. I don't think there was a need for that. Just stick to this whole lawsuit against the Pacific Gas and Electric, and just leave the personal stuff, the family life, alone. You don't really see too much of Ed Masry's personal life, though I'm sure he also has his struggles himself. And though Aaron Eckhart was very good as George, the kindly biker who looks after Erin's kids all day, sure, it adds character development to some extent, but other times it can be a bit of overkill. In fact, if you just took the personal family squabbles and trials and tribulations outside the law, then Aaron Eckhart's character was probably not really necessarily needed. I mean, not to really run down Aaron Eckhart, he played the role pretty good. I mean, he was like one of those, don't judge a book by its cover. I may ride a motorcycle. I may be a biker. I may look big, tough, and intimidating, but I am sympathetic. And I do find it'll be a little bit strange that a guy who's a biker watching over the kids. I mean, the guy is a total stranger, and it's not that, it's not that, he's mean spirit and all, but you don't just let a total stranger watch over your kids, someone who you don't even know, and you just pick them at random to look after the kids. It's just common sense. And yeah, okay, I don't know. And it makes me sometimes even wonder if this guy is even a real character or just a work of fiction. Maybe he is real. I don't know. I haven't really quite read the real Erin Brockovich's story, but I think too much emphasis on her personal life went a little bit too much. The personal scenes were at the most quite mundane. Fortunately, the lawsuit is still the primary focus, and this is what people came to see, even going as far as to say they would rather watch the lawsuit scenes than Roberts gracing us with her emotions. So, although this movie, I'm not going to say this movie was overrated. I mean, I think it really well deserved its 5 Academy Award nominations, including, Julia Roberts winning the Best Actress in a Leading Role performance. And I think it also had a few Golden Globe nominees. I think Soderbergh also had a Best Director nominee in both the Academy Awards and the Golden Globes. I think Albert Finney did get a Best Supporting Actor nominee in the Golden Globes. I think he was also nominated for Best Supporting Actor at the Academy Awards. I don't know if he won or not. I don't remember. At least it's good that, at least they acknowledged him. But other than Julia Roberts and Albert Finney, a lot of characters were just not on for very long to be fully developed. I mean, it was still pretty much the Julia Roberts show with Albert Finney as the closest secondary lead, and he wasn't really on as much either. He was still kind of underdeveloped, even though he was pretty much the second billing performer. So in the end, this was not a bad movie. It was. I'm not going to say it was a cinematic classic. I'm not going to say it was overrated. It did deliver what it should. It was good that Julia Roberts' creativity was kept to a minimal. And this is a pretty interesting topic about that makes you probably want to look more into the corruption that was manifesting within the Pacific. What's that again? What's the name of it again? The Pacific Gas and Electric Company that was in California that was causing the water to be contaminated, which would result in people suffering from terminal illnesses like cancers and lymphoma. It's a good study to sort of look more into. It makes you want to look more into the life of Erin Brockovich, the real Erin Brockovich, and maybe you can even try to make comparisons between what the real Erin Brockovich accomplished, and what her goals are set, compared to the movie from 2000. You can make comparisons to see whether the depictions were accurate or not. And I guess you could just try to decide for yourself if this movie was accurate in its depictions. I would like to say, in the most run, it did. There are a few surreal moments here and there, but I guess that's kind of like what I would have expected. So when all is said and done, if I was to give this movie a scale out of 10, I would definitely give Erin Brockovich an 8. So I guess this ends my writer review. Thank you all for listening in. If you wish to subscribe to my channel, please feel free to do so. If you wish to leave a comment, go right ahead. But just remember the 3 simple rules. Be kind, be courteous, and please refrain from any rude comments. And I will be back again with another movie review. So until next time, this is Eric Writer saying, keep watching those movies, and I'll see you around. Goodbye.